Good morning students. Today we will talk about mechanism of breathing which involves two stages, that is inspiration and expiration. Fine. During inspiration, atmospheric air containing O2 is drawn in, and during expiration alveolar air containing CO2 is released out. Now the exchange of gases or the O2 and CO2 depends upon the pressure gradient. Gradient means the difference. Fine. Now the pressure of oxygen is very less inside our tissue, but the pressure of CO2 is more inside our tissue. Why? Because our body utilize oxygen for the broken down of food, but CO2 is released as a byproduct, and various metabolic reactions taking place inside our body, and they will release CO2 as a byproduct. So obviously there is high concentration of CO2 inside our tissue, but low concentration of oxygen inside the tissue, and atmosphere contains 21% of oxygen but 0.003% of CO2. That means the pressure of oxygen is more in the atmosphere than in the lungs. Pulmonary is the term used for lungs, and the pressure of CO2 is less in the atmosphere but more inside the lungs. So as a result of diffusion, which is a natural phenomena, we know that diffusion takes place from a region having high concentration towards a region having low concentration. So oxygen during inspiration will diffuse from atmosphere towards the lungs, but CO2 during expiration will be diffused from the lungs towards the atmosphere. Fine. Now this exchange of the gases, O2 and the CO2 is not only maintained by the pressure gradient, but two more things are there, that is diaphragm and intercostal muscles. Two type of muscles are there, external intercostals and internal intercostal muscles. These are present between ribs and sternum. Fine. Now let us see what happens during inspiration. During inspiration, both of these diaphragm and intercostal muscles contract. Fine. So this is the diagram. What diagram? Actually rough diagram I have made. This is a dome shaped structure called as diaphragm, and these are the ribs. Fine. Here intercostal muscles are present. Fine. Now during inspiration, this diaphragm will contract and becomes straight. Fine. अब कोई भी चीज़ अगर मैं इस तरह से ड्रॉ करती हूँ, सपोज ये, और बाद में मैं इसे स्ट्रेट कर देती हूँ, तो ये जो एरिया है ये क्या हुआ, आपका बढ़ गया. Similar is the case that when this diaphragm will become straight in the shape, the size of thoracic cavity from the anterior and posterior axis will get increased, and lungs are situated inside the thoracic cavity. If the thoracic volume gets increased, then pulmonary volume will also gets increased. Fine. Similarly, if the intercostal muscles will get contract, then what happens? They will raise the ribs as well as sternum up towards upside. Then what happens? The thoracic volume again from the dorsal and ventral side increased. Fine. So the result is that there is overall increase in the thoracic volume as well as the pulmonary volume, but the pressure of air inside the thoracic cavity is decreased. So to balance air from the atmosphere will enters into the lungs. Fine, this is inspiration. And what happens during expiration? During expiration, diaphragm and intercostal muscles both will relax, both will regain or both will back to their normal positions. Now what happens? The thoracic volume as well as the pulmonary volume will get decrease, but the pressure of air inside the thoracic cavity will get increase. Then what happens? To balance, air from the lungs will move towards outside. Fine, this is expiration. So simply we can say during inspiration, the thoracic volume as well as pulmonary volume gets increased, but the pressure of air gets decreased. But during expiration, thoracic volume and the pulmonary volume will get decreased, but the volume of air inside the thoracic cavity will get increased. Fine. Now we can increase the strength of inspiration as well as expiration by using the muscles present in the abdomen called as abdominal muscles. Fine. And spirometer is the instrument which is used for measuring the volume of air inhale and exhale. Breathing rate in an average person is 12 to 16 times per minute. Fine. However, this rate increased in the children, you can say छोटे बच्चों में ये जो breathing rate है थोड़ी सी ज़्यादा होती है, but in normally you can say in an average person it is 12 to 16 times per minute. Fine. So this was all about the mechanism of breathing.